Okay. Our last presentation today is with Jarrod Doucette from Purdue University, and he'll give us an overview of the Tipping Points and Indicators Decision Support System overview and website. Thank you.
Hey, how do I go ahead and switch from this presentation to my desktop screen?
Stop sharing. I can do that for you if you'd like.
Okay. I mean, it's no big deal. I can start. I'm good. I see the button.
Okay.
Thanks, Kara. All right. As Kara mentioned, my name is Jarrod Doucette, and I'm a GIS and database specialist here at Purdue University. I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes or so giving you a tour of the decision support system that we've been working on. Can everybody see the web page? I lost everything.
Jarrod, it looks like people are having a hard time hearing you. Can you please make sure to speak into your microphone close to your, position your microphone closer? Thank you.
Can you guys see the website? Because I don't have any indication of which side of my screen is being shared. Brian, yes, we can see it. Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, thanks everybody. All right, so welcome to the Tipping Points and Indicators website. If you'd like to follow along a little bit, you can access it at tippingpointplanner.org. That's all one word and all singular. As you can see, we've got a great group of partners here on the right-hand side. We've kind of divided it into a few sections along the banner up top here, so if you ever need to get back home, there's a home button. The watershed action plans that the Bryans were talking about can be accessed here. We've got resources such as action strategies, white papers. Once these videos or video series is done being recorded, we'll put those up here under resources. And then a brief about section. And so when you are working with a community and you want to go ahead and start working on an action plan, you'd first need to go to the bottom of the page here and sign in. And as you can see, I'm already signed in. It says, "Hi, Jarrod." And we're working on a map that shows the location of watersheds where the decision support system has been used throughout the Great Lakes. We're not quite up to this number yet, as you see on the map, but hopefully one day we'll get there. So I'll go ahead and get started. So when you're working with a group and you're starting a new action plan, you just click the new action plan link, and it'll bring up a map that shows you all the counties and all the states that border the Great Lakes. And as you zoom in, we'll go ahead and zoom into northwestern Indiana here. You'll notice that these watersheds outlined here in a blue color pop up. And what you want to do is go ahead and select one of the watersheds. We have the ability to select multiple, so if you have kind of a custom area, you can do that. But for today, we're just going to click this one watershed. And I'll call it Webinar Demo is going to be the name of our project, and the group name is... All right. So what this does is it sets up all of the maps in the website and all the statistics and data we show you throughout the 4 modules. It sets up everything so that it's keyed into your particular watershed or watersheds. And as you can see here, we have 4 modules. The first is visioning, and in that step you do, you can sit there and you can enter a description of your project and what you're hoping to accomplish, and then as a group, you kind of come up with the community characteristics that you'd like to see in your area. The second module is the community overview, and in this stage, you look at past and future land use conditions and your natural resource assets and areas of environmental concern. Once you're done that, you would move on to the third step, which is the tipping points part. That begins by identifying your areas of prime farmland and open space. And then we take you through some what-if models that allow you to modify land use and look at how that affects your water quality. And then finally, we have the fourth module, which is the action strategies and registers. And in that step, you come in and you choose action strategies like planning, like ordinances and planning options that help address your community's issues and meet future needs. And then you fill out action registers to kind of specify how you're going to accomplish those goals that you've identified. So let's go ahead and jump into the first section here, which is visioning. Okay, so the first step you see is just a basic text entry area where you can enter our group's objectives, and we'll put a heading 1 in here. And it's a simple, kind of like a word-based kind of text entry area. And this allows you to kind of record all the different objectives that your community might have. And once they're done, you are able to save those results to the website. And those, along with the information from the second step here, will be added together, and you will put them into a PDF that kind of records all of the information about your community. And so the second step here is this community characteristics. And as you can see, there's 10 characteristics, and for each of the characteristics, you can assign anywhere from 1 to 5 stars, depending on how important that is to you. And in this step, the idea is that this is going to be a kind of a community activity, and so each person would come up, and we're going to have a We table, which is kind of an interactive whiteboard technology, where each person can come up and use a light pen and the keyboard, and they can enter their name, and they can use the light pen to highlight the different characteristics that they think are important to the community. And once one person's done, they hit update, and we create this chart down here showing, the 10 different community characteristics and how they've rated them. And so what we do is once the first person's done, the second person comes up, they fill it out based on what they think are the most important community characteristics, add their information to the chart, and it updates. And so what we can do is record information from all of the people that are in the community group and kind of summarize that. And what I'll show you here is we take all of this information from the second step and from the first step, and on the server we generate a PDF that records that information. So this first page here is just kind of generic text that would apply to any community. The second step, remember I entered the objectives and a few words on the first page, that's recorded here. And then on the second step, we did each person came up and chose how important the different community characteristics were to them, and we have a summary of those results here on a scale from 0 to 5. And so once that's all done, you hit save and publish, and it'll take you back to the main page for your project. And so you can see here's our project name, our group here, and we've completed step 1, and so that's why this grayed out button is highlighted orange. This is a link back to that PDF you created. You can see project description, project characteristics. And the idea is that as you go along through these 4 modules, in each step we're recording information that you enter, taking pictures of the maps that you're working on, and we're creating PDFs from those. So at the end of the 4 modules, you'll have developed a PDF that is your complete community watershed action plan. So let's go ahead into module 2 here, which is community overview. Okay, so the first step here is looking at our past land use, and as you can see, right now up top here we have 2006 land cover data. We can turn this off, turn on 2001, so we can look at the 2 different years. And down the bottom you can see statistics based on 2001 and 2006. And you'll notice that there's not a whole lot of change in this community. There's about 0.5% of urban land gained between 2001 and 2006 here. And that comes at the expense of quite a few of the other categories. So this is your past land use, and then we move on to future land use. And for future land use, you'll notice that we have three different scenarios. We have kind of a business as usual urban expansion, a biofuels expansion that also adds additional cropland, and then a rapid urban growth that's kind of the typical urban growth at twice the usual rate. So what I'll go ahead and do here is we've got, let's put 2010 for time period 1, and we'll put 2050 for time period 2. And you can see that the red area on the right here, there's quite an additional amount of urban land use. And then you can come down and look at this chart, which is a bar chart here. And for each of the classes along the bottom, you can see the amount of increase. So urban increased 24% over that time, and it came roughly equally from forest, grassland, ag, and wetlands. You can do this for business as usual, biofuels, and the rapid urban growth scenarios. So let's move on to step 3. In step 3, we can take a look at our natural resource assets. So the first natural resource asset is open space. And so that's basically forest, which is in green, shrubland in brown, herbaceous lands, and wetlands. And you can see this community, if I switch the base map here to something kind of a little more grayed out, it's got a lot of urban there that's that grayed out area. It's got a bit of forest and some shrubland and a tiny bit of herbaceous and wetlands. The next kind of natural resource asset we look at is groundwater resources. And so we have a map here that shows the superficial geology in the area. And in this area, it's superficial sand and gravel up here in the orange. And then down here in the gray is kind of the discontinuous buried sand and gravel aquifers. And these would be useful when you're looking at planning out your different types of land use into the futures, as we'll be able to do in the next module. As far as high-valued streams, there are actually none in this area. We can zoom out a little bit here and kind of try and find some. There's one over here near Chesterton, but in our watershed there don't happen to be any high-value streams. And then we go ahead and look at prime farmland. So we have prime farm soils, and these dark green areas here in the southeast side of the watershed are prime farmland as long as they're drained or flood protected or irrigated. And we don't appear to have a whole lot of simply prime farmland. And then our final map here is major crop types, and you can see this area. It's a mostly urban area, so you have a little bit of cereal grains, which are these yellow in the eastern yellow areas in the eastern part of the watershed. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of farming in this area. And then we want to go ahead and look at our areas of known pollution and environmental concerns. So we have a map here showing the non-point discharge sites. And we zoom in, and there's a Michigan City Department of Wastewater and a Michigan City Generating Station are two of the ones in our area. We also have impaired lakes and streams, and so we didn't have any high-valued quality streams, but we do have an impaired stream here that runs through the basically the center of our watershed, and it's Trail Creek here. And so as we've gone through these steps, we've generated maps, and these all go into our community overview PDF document. There we go. And so we've got some boilerplate text, and then we've got past land use maps and the pie charts and future, the year 1 and year 2 that we were looking at for the future land use, and that bar chart that I showed you, and then several of the other maps that we completed in steps 3 and 4 of the project. So let's go ahead and save and publish this. Save. All right, so now that we're done Module 2, which was Community Overview, we can go ahead and move on to the third module, which is Tipping Points here. And so let's start that. So the first part of Tipping Points is designed to help you identify areas of prime farmland in your community. And so what you can do is you can classify the different prime farmland types here on the left-hand column, and you can classify them high, medium, or low, or none based on your community's preferences. So we'll put prime farmland as medium, prime farmland if drained, flood protected, irrigated, or some combination of those is all high. And so we've kind of classified the different types of prime farmland, and then we can do the same thing with crop types. Well, in our area, we pretty much only have cereal grain, so I'll go ahead down to the cereal grain row here, and I'll mark that as high, and then we can mark all the other crop types as low. And then what we do is we have a tool here that combines those two layers based on your weighted priorities and generates an output map that identifies those key areas that you think are important for your community based on your weightings. It typically takes about 15 seconds or so the first time, and then it's quicker when you run it after that. All right, so we'll have the legend will pop up here on the left. And then in the center here, we'll have the priority map. And as you can see, the areas in dark green here correspond to those areas on the edge of the watershed above that were the cereal grain crops. And then the rest of the area in the light green here is kind of low. That's a lot of the urban land, and it's not very good for farming. And so we'll go ahead on to step 2. And what we're trying to do for step 2 is we're doing a similar priority map creation. This time we're looking at open space classes, and what we do is we let you identify the minimum patch size for 4 main open space classes. So in this case, they're all set at 10 acres. And then we also allow you to set a minimum interior distance for those patches. And we run that through a model that identifies those areas that you've selected. And this is one of the ones that we're working on getting up and running. But it'll create that composite map like it did in the first step, which is prime farmland. Theoretically, there should be a map here. Let me go ahead and jump over to one of our other sites real quick. There we go. Okay. So in the first 2 steps, we identified areas that were important for conservation or preservation. And in this step, we have a what-if scenario. And what it allows you to do based on your watershed is it allows you to play with the land cover in your area. And so you can come in and change land use to urban, forest, or agriculture. And I'll go ahead and I'll do that for a small area here. And what you can see is we have a model behind the scenes that tells you based on your land cover types what the nitrogen, phosphorus, suspended solids, lead, copper, and zinc in your streams would be. And this is a nice tool because it allows you to come in and let's say you want to add a large urban development here in these ag fields. It lets you see, oh, right now my nitrogen is at 2.158. Let's go ahead and add additional expansion to this neighborhood. Okay, that dropped it to 2.14. And so what that shows is that by removing the farmland, you're reducing the amount of nitrogen, but what really happens is, as one thing goes down, others go up, and so you would see a increase in lead and copper due to the urban land. And this is a nice what-if tool that lets you get in there and see how land use changes affect your stream water quality. And then the next step is kind of the first of the researchers' data. And so this data is from Mike Wiley and Catherine Rising at University of Michigan. And what they did is they modeled stream invertebrate health based on land use concentrations. And so what they did is they summarized the different invertebrates into an IBI score, and it ranges from about 0 to -3. And in this case, you can see our community is just doing okay. They're kind of in the middle of the range. And this score is based on the percent urban in their watershed, the percent suburban, which would be low and medium urban types, and then the percentage of ag within 100 meters of the streams in your watershed. And what we're going to do in the future is kind of take the concepts from that past step where we could draw different land use types and see how the gauges moved, and then incorporate it into this model so that you can see how changes in your land cover would affect the stream invertebrate health. The next step here is some nutrient data that other folks up in Michigan are working on. they're working on data such as septic counts by watershed, different fertilizer practices on croplands, nitrogen deposition from the atmosphere, and we're working on getting all this data from them, and they've created a model that takes all of those inputs and calculates a load rank of pollutants on the coastal areas, and you can see we're in an area that's green, so we're doing okay in terms of those measures. The next step is coastal wetland health. Again, they looked at different land use types and other indicators such as stream and river crossings, and came up with a model that shows how well a community is doing in terms of coastal wetland health. So they looked at birds and fish and invertebrates and determined how well each community is doing. And you'll see here as I zoom out the data. We've done this for all across the Great Lakes. And so, if your community happens to be in another state or, a different part of the state, we have data for most of the area. And then again, the final step is we take those first 6 steps and we turn them into a PDF document that's used in your watershed action plan. And so we've got our composite maps from the prime farmland and open space, and we've got some runoff gauges and an impervious surface map. And so all of those 6 steps that you're going through are, all the information is recorded and saved for use. Oh, hang on. Sorry for getting everybody lost there. Now that I'm in a different website, let's see. So now we've completed the 3rd step, and we're moving on to the 4th step, which is the action strategies and registers step. So in this step, you can choose from a variety of action strategies, such as planning options, ordinances, incentive options, and we're working on community practices. And these different options within planning are weighted based on the researchers' data and the tipping point gauge indicators, and then they're also weighted based on how the community characteristics that your group decided on in that visioning step. And so each of the planning options here, I'll show you, includes descriptive text such as a little overview of what a prime farmland protection plan is, the strengths and weaknesses, and then a few examples that you can visit. And if that's one that your community wants to use, you just go ahead and click the button, and we'll go ahead and add that to your watershed action plan. And then the second step here looks at action registers, and so we've got a brief area to fill out your community's objectives, and then down below you can go ahead and complete action registers. And so you would set a goal here, what strategies you would use to accomplish that goal, what actions you would use to kind of go ahead and complete those strategies, and you could even set a schedule for completion. So you could set several time periods that apply to one or more of the action items, and then determine who would be responsible for accomplishing that under the responsible party area. And then finally, those action strategies like prime farmland protection, conservation design ordinances, and then the action registers that you filled out are added to that PDF for the 4th module. And when that's all said and done, we take the PDFs from each of the 4 modules and we combine them into an overall watershed action plan that you're able to download and use as the basis for your community. And so that's a completion of the tour for today. And if anybody has any questions, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Okay.
Thank you, Jarrod.
Could you hear me? I just saw Mary.
Yes. Oh, okay, Jarrod. Yeah, you were fading out a little bit. We do have about 10 minutes left if people do have questions for Jarrod, or if you do have questions for the other presenters as well, we could get them back on the line as well. Okay. It looks like we don't have any questions at this time. If you do have future questions, you can contact us through email. We will have 3 additional webinars. Our next webinar is scheduled, the session 2 is scheduled for Thursday, September 26th from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and we will be discussing stream biodiversity and health indicators. Presentations will be from Dr. Mike Wiley from the University of Michigan and Dr. Joan Rose from Michigan State University. So this will be the second stage of the process for tipping points and indicators that Jarrod was discussing today as well. Future sessions will be on Tuesday, October 1st from 3 to 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, focusing on nutrients. And the 4th and final session will be on Friday, October 18th from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern, focusing on coastal wetland biodiversity and tipping points. Thank you all very much for taking your time to join us.